Hey, you can have a seat. Thank you for being here. How's everybody doing? Glad you're here. You glad to be here? All right. Hey, happy week after Easter. Let's go. He's still risen. Come on. Let's go. Hey, really glad you guys are here this morning. We are continuing in our series called The Essentials, and I'm excited to continue this with you. As always, you can go back on our YouTube channel and on our podcast and pick up some of the work that we have done. And City Church is 6 years old. We turned 6 in March, which is awesome. Yeah, woohoo. It's been amazing watching all that God has done over the last 6 years. And this year, as we go into this year, this series has been instrumental in the life of our church and what we feel God is calling us to next. And so it was awesome. And of course, there's, more candy than you should ever have to even look at, right? But it's there. And I kid you not, like every minute that I turned around, my kids were like, hey, can I have another piece of candy? Can I have another piece of candy? Can I have another piece of candy? They got these giant chocolate SpongeBob and Patrick Stars. They're like, can I have half a SpongeBob? Can I have a half a SpongeBob? I'm like, oh yeah, that's better, like for sure. And over and over again, I hear them like, can I have another? Can I have another? And I'm like, guys, chill out. Like you're gonna throw up everywhere if you don't chill out. And I'm a little judgmental. I'm like, man, can't you put like a governor on that desire of yours? I'm such a hypocrite, right? On the inside, right? Because like if you're like me, it's no longer the candy addiction that I wrestle with. It's one more drink, one more serving of this, one more episode of that, one more fail video. I love fail videos. There's something, I love watching people get hurt. It is so physically, not emotionally, but physically, you recover from it's so, sorry. Right, but we have one more email. One more TikTok video, one more minute of scrolling, right? We have one more of something. It's hard to turn it off. It's easy to be like, hey, kids, chill out. And we're terrible examples ourselves. You see, Jesus offers to trade our restlessness for rest in Him. Human desire is infinite. That's why St. Augustine said it this way. You have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. This is a prayer from his confessions. His story is wild. You can read it sometime. But his acknowledgement is, you have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. For many of you, you're followers of Jesus, and this has become the experiential reality of your life. There was a restlessness that has been satisfied in Jesus. And what you have to continually learn to do is come back to the thing that actually gives you life, right? There are so many cheap fixes that will rob you, that will numb you, that will satisfy for a moment, but they don't give you that deep soul rest. And so you find it in Jesus, but you also come back over here and come back over here. Others of you, you're looking everywhere. What is it that's going to satisfy this restlessness in me? Is it a relationship? Is it success? Is it achievement? Is it more stuff? Is it more pleasure? Is it more experience? Like, what is going to satisfy this thing? And for St. Augustine, he says, man, it's God. You were made. Human desire is infinite. The good news is it has a place to pull from that will never go dry. And that's Jesus himself. You see, this invitation from Jesus, it starts with trust in him. That he is who he said he is, that he can do in your life what he said he would do, but then it continues in relationship and in training of who we are becoming. And so this series has been an invitation to take up the easy yoke, as Jesus called it. That's a work instrument for 2 oxen. Jesus says, take up the yoke of life with me, learn to work and rest in a new way, a different way, how you are actually made to live, and you will find rest for your souls. So the great invitation is to take Jesus up on his offer and to see if it is true. And that is the invitation for you today. I have nothing to force onto your life. I have nothing to add onto your life. I don't have more to-dos and to-don'ts for you today. I have one large invitation from Jesus, the Son of God, our unhurried rabbi. This series is taking us into that place. What does it mean to follow Jesus? And we've said it over and over again. The invitation from Jesus is not mental rearranging of the furniture of your mind so you believe all the right stuff, check some boxes, and go to heaven when you die, but rather an invitation into life now and forever with the God who knows your name, who knit you together in your mother's womb, who has plans and purposes for your life, and has designed you to walk with him and to live freely and lightly. That is the great invitation of Jesus. What does it mean The first invitation to follow Jesus is to be with him in relationship. It's to be with Jesus. Not to perform for Jesus, not to do a bunch of stuff for Jesus, not to go to church, give money, don't kill anybody. Try not to cuss anyone out on the way to work this week. To be with Jesus, relationship. And in being with Jesus, we become like Jesus. We are formed by those who we spend the most time with, are we not? And ultimately to do what Jesus would do. Be with Jesus, become like Jesus, do what he did. And if you were to be in the first century walking around with your rabbi, when he invited them, it was not a mental assent into believing the right stuff. It was to literally follow Jesus. And if you would have walked around with this first century rabbi, you would have quickly learned the rhythms of this practice called the Sabbath. The Sabbath. Erica read that passage for us just a moment ago. Every 7 days you would watch, as you walk around with Jesus, you would stop and you would rest and you would observe the Sabbath with your rabbi. And you would have watched how he engaged, because everyone else was taking a Sabbath as well. Everyone else was stopping, but there was something off about the way that they were doing it. And there's something really right about the way that Jesus was doing it. Not right at an information level, but right at a soul level. And it showed up in the way that he lived. And then over time, you would have begun to live into those rhythms with your rabbi. Does that make sense? So today, it's not, again, to receive information and do little with it. It is to apprentice our lives under our rabbi in the arena of work and rest. And can I just acknowledge in the room, just for a moment, it is so easy to start put walls up. Because we're not just talking about work and rest. We're talking about our identities. We're talking about our security. We're talking about what we've built life on. You start poking around in those areas and we get really sensitive really fast. Because who am I if I don't have? And who am I if I'm not doing? And who am I if... So can I just invite us for a moment maybe into a posture of openness? That Jesus really is good. He really does have our best interest at heart. Would you just flip your hands up like in your lap with me? Just in a posture of openness. And just let your body catch up with your soul for a moment. Breathe in deeply. And then as you breathe out worry and breathe out anxiety. As you breathe in, you say, Holy Spirit, come. God, we just want to give you this space in this moment and ask you to help us trust in you. To silence the lies, to silence the distractions, to silence the noise, to silence the hurry, and to help us be present to you, to ourselves, and to the life that you're inviting us into. Amen. Matthew 11. It's kind of interesting, right? This invitation from Jesus. Come to me, and I will give you rest. I don't think he's pulling your leg. I think it's real. But what does it mean? What does it look like? What's really interesting is for Matthew, as you read the gospel narrative, right after the passage we just read, are two accounts of Jesus having conflict and engagement around this idea called the Sabbath. The Sabbath is literally a word that means to stop. Stop working, stop wanting, stop everything. To Sabbath is to stop. It's the Hebrew word Shabbat. You heard the phrase Shabbat Shalom. You heard that before? From like a sitcom somewhere. You're like, yeah, I've heard that before. It means to stop. Sabbath means to stop. And what we're going to look at here in a moment is Mark chapter 2. So let's go to Mark chapter 2. And let me just give you one of the scenarios, and this is also a parallel in Matthew. But you can keep reading. So Matthew 11, 28 through 30. We just read it. And then if you just keep reading, it goes straight into these stories on Jesus and the Sabbath. How interesting that an invitation to rest then is confronted with the reality of this conversation around Sabbath. A day to rest, a 24-hour block of time where you stop and then engage your heart in a different direction. Mark chapter 2. Jesus, and Erica already read this for us, so I'm just going to give you kind of the punchline for Jesus. Mark chapter 2. He said to them, the Pharisees, who had it all wrong, who were observing the Sabbath to a letter. I mean, every little way you got it. They're rule following to the umpteenth degree. But then Jesus reminds them the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man, speaking of himself, is Lord even of the Sabbath. It's pretty powerful. Sabbath is a 24-hour block of time where we stop and we rest. Sabbath is a practice where we cultivate a spirit of restfulness in a culture of restlessness. Are you tracking with me? Okay, so here's the definition I'm going to give you. What does it mean to Sabbath? Here's the definition we're using today. It means to stop, but a 24-hour block of time in which we stop work, enjoy rest, practice delight, and contemplate God. One more time. What is it to Sabbath? A 24-hour block of time in which we stop work, enjoy rest, practice delight, and contemplate God. This was built into Jesus' life. It was built into his disciples' life, and then we see him teach on it over and over again. It is an invitation to stop, rest, delight, and contemplate. How many of you immediately, your minds are like, yeah, right, dude. 24 hours, yeah, right. An hour, 2 hours, maybe, no way. Impossible. Just hear me out. Hang out with me for just a moment. Let's walk through the Genesis narrative, and then we'll kind of wrap it all up together, okay? And this is just an invitation. If you want to experience Jesus' invitation for rest, this is one of the practices that's going to help you do that. It is something that you do to partner with God in receiving the thing that he has for you to give you freely. So it starts in the Genesis narrative. You guys heard of the 10 Commandments before? Remember, the 2 stone tablets, and Moses comes down and he's like, you shall not pass. You guys remember that moment? Different old guy, right? But 2 tablets, for sure. Okay, the 10 Commandments. They're pretty, solid, worship the Lord your God alone. Don't kill anybody. Don't sleep around on your wife. Sabbath. In Exodus, we see the 10 Commandments kind of break down. And what we see is the nation of Israel has been rescued from slavery in Egypt, okay? Rescued from slavery in Egypt. They've been slaves. They've known rest never. Never have they known rest. God rescues them from slavery, and then he gives them the 10 Commandments. And sometimes people hear the 10, they're like, oh, the big 10, it's just like a list of rules. You better not mess up. It's an invitation. It's God's incredible grace to the Israelites as his people. These commands are not saving them. They've already been saved, right? They are rescued on the other side of the river. The Egyptians have been demolished. They are set free, and God gives them the 10 Commandments not to save them, but to show them how to live now that they are saved. Are you tracking with me? So the invitation from Jesus is not, you better do these things in order to prove that you're my followers. Not at all. He says, hey, you're my followers. These are things that are going to help you live in alignment with what it means to follow me. Exodus 20. Let me show you very simply. This is the command right in the middle on the Sabbath, okay? So the big 10, you have the first half and then the second half, and right in the middle, you have the longest of all the commandments. How interesting. The longest of all the commands out of the 10 is this command of the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. That means to be set apart. It's different from the other 6 days. 6 days, you're going to labor and do all your work. Somebody needs to hear that this morning. Just saying. Sabbath day is for rest, and some of you, the 6 days are more applicable today, okay? That's a joke, but it's kind of funny, and maybe a little bit true. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. For in 6 days, and here's the grounds for the Exodus command, is it was modeled by God himself. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that was in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. How interesting that this made the list. Would you agree? All the other ones are pretty big deals, right? Don't kill anybody, cool. That one makes sense, but Sabbath? The big 10, in order to live into this invitation that God has for us, this is all grounded in the Genesis narrative. God creates humanity, and the first day of the week is a day of rest. And so here's the big idea. The Israelites are meant to learn to work from their rest, not for their rest. Sabbath is the beginning of the week, not the end. Okay? In the West, it's so easy. We're like, work. And then we fall into the weekend or whatever kind of version of a day off you have or whatever it is, and then we just barely recuperate enough to get back to the next day. The rhythm that we see in the Genesis narrative and then in Exodus is that you work from your rest, that you fill your tank in such a way by being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus and doing what he did on the Sabbath, it fuels your other days in a way that it can't possibly compare to simply a day off. What I need you to get today, if you don't get anything else, is this one big idea. Sabbath is worship, not reward. Sabbath is worship, not reward. It's not something God gives us because you did really good the other 6 days. It is an invitation for worship that then fuels the rest of our work. You see, when my significance gets attached to what I do, it begins to eat me from the inside out. Work matters. Would you agree? We see a ton of incredible theology around work. God made us to work. He made us to create. He made us to cultivate. He made us to contribute. There's significance. You carry the very image of God because of the work that you do, whether it's making an incredible latte or engineering or mowing grass or washing cars or momming. That's probably the most incredible, or dadding, I suppose. Stay at home, anything is wildly underpaid. Would you agree? Yes. It's so crazy. Now listen, the first time I heard this conversation around the Sabbath, the Big Ten, I heard of the Big Ten. Cool, got it. Don't kill anybody. Don't cheat on your wife. But then that Sabbath was in there. I don't know. I just kind of ignored it. And then here's what I heard. Why is it that we consider the other 9 significant? Like, don't kill anybody. No one's like, oh, I don't know if that one's really that important. Right? Even in the culture that we live in today, it's typically frowned upon when you cheat on your wife, right? Like, no one's like, yeah, that's not important anymore. So why is it that we think that like all the other 9 are important, but this one like, eh? So I heard, I was in a room with a bunch of pastors, and the guy leading the session, he said, you should treat the Sabbath. If someone asks you to skip your Sabbath, you should treat it just as important as if someone was asking you to cheat on your wife. And I was like, dang, that sounds way more intense than I have ever treated this conversation. But God put it in the Big Tens. Why? Well, God rested. Is that interesting to you? Why? He was exhausted. 6 days of making stuff. Right? No, he's God. He wasn't tired. So what's God doing? God is modeling for us a rhythm of work and rest. He stopped and he delighted in what he made. Do you see? It's crazy that God has to command rest, is it not? Does that sound ridiculous? It's like commanding ice cream. Thou shalt go to the ice cream shop, Sweet Cow, right after service. Right? No, you can't make me. Okay, fine. It's like commanding Disneyland. You're like, no, gosh. Okay, he twisted my arm, right? Like, some of you are like, no, absolutely. That is, no, I'm not. You don't know what you're missing out on. Isn't it interesting that God has to command rest? It's because something is deeply broken in the human condition that God is trying to get us back to. Jesus is the initiator of that, and as we follow him, he begins to make us more into his image. See, Sabbath is very simply saying it's enough to stop. Sabbath is a declaration. I lack nothing. I need nothing. I'm not the most important person in the world. I can stop working and I can enjoy rest. I can stop wanting. I can put a limit on these desires and I can enjoy the God who has given me everything already. That's the invitation of Sabbath. It is resistance to slavery. And the Israelites are not the only ones enslaved. You and I so easily are blind to the chains that we wear every day. The invitation for Jesus is to live lightly and freely. Now, Sabbath is a verb. It is a practice. It's something that we continually do. And like most practices, it takes a little time. You don't just go into the gym day one and get super swole, right? You get super sore, right? And sometimes for some of you, your first Sabbath is just going to kick you in the teeth. You're like, oh, everything hurts, right? But over time, you find that those muscles start to build in the appropriate ways, and you see that strength actually begin to pay off. It's a practice. But again, Sabbath is not reward. It's worship. Are you tracking with me? Okay, can I help you just walk into it as we wrap it up today? Let's go back to our definition really fast. I'm just going to walk you through. I know today's really simple, but again, the purpose of this series has been to give you the tools to put this into practice so that you can focus on who you're becoming. Here's what I know. When I'm unrested, I'm a pretty terrible human being. And just ask my wife and kids, like evidence all day long. Like when I'm unrested, I can be exhausted and read my Bible and still yell at my kids afterwards. You ever done that? Like, I've never yelled at your kids. Well, okay, but I might have yelled at your kids, but right, it's interesting how other spiritual disciplines tend to rise and fall. Right? I can practice generosity and still be grumpy. I can fast. I'm always grumpy when I fast, but that was a joke, guys. Not last week was actually a really good fast. How was it for everybody else that fasted for the 5 days? Was it good? It was awesome, was it not? Man, I felt, so full as we were feasting on God. It was so good. But right, all these other spiritual disciplines, they really rise and fall with where you find yourself at a soul level. Are you rested? And listen, you don't have control over what's happening around you. That's why this day is a gift, a 24-hour period. So let's go back to the definition. A 24-hour block of time in which we stop work, enjoy rest, practice delight, and contemplate God. So I'm going to give you just very simple tools to try. I just want you to experiment with it one time this week, okay? A 24-hour block of time in which we stop work, enjoy rest, practice delight, and contemplate God. So let's walk through it. Number one, stop. The Sabbath is meant to be different than a day off, okay? A day off where you're running around and doing chores and catching up, or like a vacation, those are fine, and they maybe can be restful for you, but this is different than a day off. This is an intentional day where you stop working, where you stop wanting, where you stop worrying. And by the way, when you're talking about work can be identified as any meaningful expenditure of energy that is taxing to you, paid or unpaid, okay? So if laundry falls into the work category, if dishes are a burden to, then you stop. And here's the deal. You stop when the hour rolls around, not when you get to it. That's the point of Sabbath. That the world keeps spinning even though you stop. And so for my family, we Sabbath from Friday evening at 6 p.m. to Saturday at 6 p.m. That's our Sabbath, because most Sundays are a work day for me. For many others that are practicing the Sabbath, they do it from Saturday evening to Sunday evening, 6 to 6 or whatever. So a 24-hour block of time. And Friday, we work hard to get ready for the Sabbath, but then, on Friday night, bam, we do our very best to stop everything in order to enter into and delight in the rest that God has for us. And our family is, it's really cool to watch our kids who are 7 and 9 begin to understand that God has gifted us with a day of rest, a day where dad will be more present than he normally is because he's working 2 jobs, a day that we're not at school or running around for sports and all these other things, a day of rest. So to stop, where does your infinite desire take you? You stop wanting and working and worrying, and you point your energy in the direction of God. This is that moment when we let go of the illusion that we are indispensable to running the world. I asked Danielle this week, I'll confess, I've been practicing Sabbath for, I think since we planted City Church. It was something that our staff team entered into, said, hey, we came from a background that did not, again, the 9 were important. This one was right? And the cliche was, well, the devil never takes a day off. And I remember our staff team getting out here, and I'm like, man, the last time I checked, the devil was not our role model. What the heck, man? And so I just remember trying to remind, I like to be wanted. I like to be wanted. Some of you are introverts, and you're like, man, I'm so glad when no one even knows my name. I feel you. But for me, type A, 8 on the Enneagram, I want to be wanted. Feels good. I love being busy. I find a lot of significance in my activity. I do a lot of really important things. I'm kind of a big deal. And so Sabbath is just a straight shot at my pride and my arrogance and my significance to say, man, I am loved by God without doing anything. You know how hard it is for my soul to receive that at times? That I do nothing productive for 24 hours? And God says, I'm so proud of you. Oh, that's so hard. That's so hard for me to believe. That's so hard for me to believe. I asked Danielle yesterday, I said, hey, babe, this next Saturday, can we practice Sabbath? And this is crazy, because I'm a big deal. But can we turn off our phones for 24 hours? Most of you are like, man, we don't care. Go for it, bro. We don't need you, right? But that's a big deal. I'm like, I've practiced Sabbath for 6 years, and I've never turned off. I've set it up. I put it in timeout, but I'll still get a car wash client phone call, and I'll still get this phone. Hey, can we just 24 hours shut it off? turn it all off and see what happens. See if the world burns down overnight or not. Like, just see. That's what we're going to do this next week. So there you go. That's my confession. We're going to give it our best shot and see what happens. But friends, listen. Listen to how Pete Scazzero talks about it from his book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Sabbath can be terrifying because doing nothing productive leaves us feeling vulnerable. We may feel emotional exposure and nakedness before God or others. Overworking hides these feelings of inadequacy or worthlessness, not just from others, but also from ourselves. Man, that's so true of me. He goes on. As long as we keep busy, we can outrun that internal voice that says things like, I'm never good enough. I'm never safe enough. I'm never perfect enough. I'm never extraordinary enough. I'm never successful enough. Do you recognize that voice? Sabbath is a terrifying gift to receive, not to clamor for, not to grasp for and try to hold on to receive. You receive a gift, right? Has anyone ever given you a gift and it stressed you out? Right? Very rarely. Sometimes people give my kids gifts and those stress me out. But outside of that, I'm like, why does it make so much noise? Why did you do that? But outside of that, right, most of the time when someone gives you a gift, it only like makes your shoulders drop and it breathes like it's really nice, right, to receive a meal or be taken to, or someone buys your meal, or they like, hey, here's my mountain cabin in the mountains that you can go use for the weekend. Anybody? Like, I just could help me. Sabbath well. You see, you don't normally get stressed out by a gift, you just receive it, right? Some of you struggle to receive gifts because everything in your life has been performance up to this point. The only gifts that have mattered are the ones that you earned. But I would argue that that's not a gift. This gift from God is something to be received. Stop. Number 2, rest. Rest. Enjoy rest. You see, engage in activities that restore and replenish us. This is where it begins to differentiate. We have to actually work pretty hard. Danielle and I are 2 pretty different people, and then we have 2 little kids, and so we honor the time. The time block has been set, but now we have to work really hard to actually make it life-giving. So Danielle and I have to have conversations. Hey, what's life-giving for you? What's life-giving for me? Normally, like very kinesthetic things for me, like washing like my own car might be actually very good on Sabbath. Like something about unplugging and listening to my favorite country songs. Like just, oh yeah, right, just in my zone. Imagining like I'm sitting in a deer blind somewhere and hunting, like again, like whatever. Like there are some activities. Like there's something beautiful about mowing grass. I don't have any grass because I live in Boulder, and I own a house that big, But if I did have grass, man, there's something really nice about this way, and then this way. You ever done that? And then this way again? You're like, yo, this is quite nice. And then you look back and you got those nice lines. Let's go. Let's go. I'm just saying. For some of you are like, never in a million years would I mow grass on the Sabbath. That's fine. The point is, this is going to look unique to you, and how, like, stopping is one thing, but how do you rest well? What is it for you? Danielle's very creative. I'm very activity-oriented. But there are some activities that are fun and not fun. And so there's a big difference in working on something that I want to work on versus working on something that's broken. I don't like that at all. So what is it for you? What brings rest for your soul? A nap. You're never more like Jesus than when you're taking a nap. Maybe not. He did take naps, though. A lot of them, apparently. Hiking, reading a book, eating good food, hanging out with friends, whatever it is. Resting from paid and unpaid work. I'm going to invite Kwesi to come. And as Kwesi comes, I'm just going to land the plane for you. Listen, just like land needs rest in order to continue to produce healthy crops, the soil of your soul needs rest. God has built it into the fabric of the universe. And as I've heard it said a couple times, if you go against the grain of the universe, eventually you get splinters. This is built into the DNA of how we're wired. And let me give you this warning that I heard the same day that I heard this talk about Sabbath 20 years ago. Sabbath is coming, either as delight or as discipline. It's built into the fabric of how you're wired as a human. It's built into the fabric, right? What happens when you exhaust and deplete nutrients from land? Eventually they don't produce. Have you seen it? Absolutely. What happens when you go nonstop at 100 miles an hour for a week, a month, a year, 5 years, 20 years? Sabbath is coming as delight or as discipline. You ever see someone run really hard and live like Atlas their whole lives, and they're just also perpetually sick and something's wrong and their body's failing? You ever seen that? What if that's not coincidence? What if that's their body screaming from a biological standpoint that they need rest, and because they're not giving their body rest, their body is forcing it? Sabbath is coming for you as delight or as discipline. Here's what's funny is this practice, even if you're not a follower of Jesus, you can put this into practice and you'll actually begin to reap the benefits of it. That's what's interesting. Take it willingly or be forced to take it when you crash and burn. Those are your two options. Stop. Rest. Delight. Delight. Ask the question, man, what gives you joy? What brings you delight? What could you do for 24 hours that would bring you a throbbing, soul-level joy? Delight. You know what's funny is Jesus would keep getting into trouble on the Sabbath because he kept healing people. Why did he do that? Because it brought him delight. See, Sabbath is not a day that we ignore other people. Sabbath is not a day that we don't serve and give out of a place of love. But it is at a place of stopping work, enjoying rest, practicing delight, and lastly, contemplating God. Here's I would say the great struggle for me. This practice is built into the rhythm of my calendar now, so we're pretty good at honoring the time block. The greatest temptation for my family in this season of life is to not take time off from God, to look up and you have 24 hours of doing all kinds of stuff, of resting, but then I didn't orient my heart toward God. You see, Sabbath is an invitation to see the invisible in all of the visible, to recognize the hidden ways of God, His goodness and work in our lives, to savor a meal, to enjoy family. I sat on the floor with my boys yesterday. Dad, will you come play Legos with us? And I could hear the delight in their voice when they asked. Yeah, man. And I went and sat on the floor and I played Legos, and I'm not particularly inclined to delighting in Legos necessarily until they're done. Accomplishment. But for my boys, it's a moment of just receiving. Wow, God, this is a gift. Dad, come jump with us on the trampoline. Dad, come jump with us like over and over again. Dad, come bounce us on the trampoline. Just receiving what's right in front of me. They're not an interruption, they're a gift. Sabbath is this beautiful invitation to turn my heart toward God in 1,000 different ways. Through all of my senses. I go on a hike. I just turn my heart toward God. God, thank you for the place that I get to call home. I enjoy a good meal. God, thank you for this incredible meal. Just slow down and savor. I get to be with friends. God, thank you for the people I get to live life with. And you just let this day be full of praise and gratitude to contemplate. So here's the great invitation for us today. This is just to give it a shot, okay? This is a gift that we receive. It's not a reward for what we do. It is a posture of worship. And let me say this. Some of you, you don't need this discipline. You don't need this practice in your life. You need the relationship that it represents. Sabbath is a means to an end. It's not about, yes, finally, I do need to chill out. I do work too much. I need to rest. No, you need God. You need God in your life. You need God on your mind. You need God in your heart. And you need to let that river of living water that Jesus talked about fill you up and spill the banks of your life. Your desire will always be infinite, but it can be satisfied. And the one that said, if you take a drink of this, then you'll never thirst again. So some of you, you don't need this discipline. You need the relationship. Sabbath is just a taste of what's coming. But you can taste it now in a relationship with Jesus today. And some of you, you have the relationship, but you need the discipline. Because there are so many other things that are contesting for that relationship. Sabbath is a means to an end, and that end is Jesus himself. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Imagine a church, a community of Jesus followers, living out of a place of rest and peace with Jesus. Imagine the impact in our homes and in our workplaces, in our marriages, as we go to school, in our neighborhoods, as we go around. Imagine not being in a hurry, being present to God and to yourself, being interruptible and full of grace. Plenty for you and plenty to give away. So here are your next steps as we wrap it up. Number one, remember, this is practice, not performance. God's not like, I'm so proud of you for practice. Like, no, this is a gift to receive, not something to add on your list of burdens to do, okay? This is practice, not performance. Number two, create space to practice Sabbath this week. So sometime in the next 7 days, find a 24-hour period of time and give it your best shot. And hold it with an open hand. There's plenty of experimenting and permission and grace here. So a couple of tips for you. Make a list of things that bring you delight. Danielle and I and our staff team, we've done this over and over again. Like, what brings you delight? Compare and contrast. Talk with your kids about it. Solo, whatever. Bring in some room. Like, whatever it is, just make a list of things. Number two, make a to-not-to-do list. So important. Honestly, so important. And it's important, right? I need to know what's on Danielle's to-not-to-do, and she needs to know what's on mine, and so, right? And so that we can honor that space together. Number three, plan, prepare, and experiment. You will not fall into an effective Sabbath. I just want you to know. Like, you won't accidentally look up Friday at 6 or Saturday at 6 and be like, yay, I'm like without a plan, you'll be immediately robbed with distraction and busyness and hurry, or you will fall into the trap of kind of surface level pleasure instead of real deep soul rest. Plan it well. Okay, and last thing. Continue to create space for the other spiritual disciplines, right? We work from our rest, not for our rest. The Sabbath is a day to reset. It is a day to fuel the other 6 days. It is a rhythm, like the chorus, if you will. And the rest of the week is the verse. But the rest of the week is still meant to be engaged. There's work to be done. There are people to engage. There are rhythms to be a part of. And so getting up early or staying up late at night and spending time with Jesus in the scriptures and in prayer, generosity and fasting, all of the practices we've talked about in this series, let Sabbath fuel those in a healthy way, okay? So don't abandon those. This last week in our city group, we took some time to review, hey, out of all these practices, which ones are going really well? Which ones are struggling? And maybe let Sabbath be a practice that fuels those well in the next week, okay? So let me pray for you, and then we're going to respond in worship. God, I want to say thank you for my friends in the room. I want to say thank you for this church, man. It's such a gift to gather in Boulder, Colorado in 2025. It's such a gift to open the scriptures and to hear your invitation. Come to me, and I will give you rest. God, our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you. We believe that to be true. But God, would you help us to taste and see today, to respond to this invitation, and to recognize the gift that's right in front of us. But God, also help us not to think that, okay, I can only rest 6 days from now. Rest is available. It's coming. Just hold on for another 6 days. Rest is available right now from your Holy Spirit as we sit here and receive. Rest is from a person, not a day. So God, help us to receive fully right now from you, and then help us to respond appropriately with intention and with a plan and with accountability. God, I speak against the enemy's efforts to distract, to discourage. There's a really good chance that as we put this into practice this week, there's going to be some ridiculous things, that, like 1,000 different reasons not to. Interruptions, distractions, frustrations. God, would we remember that there is not this neutral ground that we're living in, but we are at war for our very souls. And God, we are at war in the world around us. So God, help us not to be discouraged in the middle of the resistance, but to lean more into you because you have already overcome. Very simply, with our heads bowed and eyes closed, as we listen to the Spirit right now, I just want to speak very simply to the person in the room that needs less of the practice this morning and more of the relationship. Friend, I want you to know Jesus, he lived a perfect life like you and I can't live. He died the death that we deserved. He was buried and 3 days later he rose again, defeating sin, defeating death, defeating shame, defeating guilt, and offering anyone new life now and forever who would trust in him and his work and his forgiveness, to receive not only forgiveness but his righteousness, his right living, a right identity, a wholeness, that you are wholly loved as you sit here today with your failures, with your brokenness, with your pride, with your achievements, with success, and every other medal you want to hang on your chest. You are utterly loved for who you are and not what you do. But Jesus is very interested in who you are and what you do. And he wants to help you live from a place of secure identity and holiness and forgiveness and freedom. And if you have never received freely the gift of salvation from Jesus today, friend, that gift is available for you. You don't strive for it. You don't earn it. You don't go to church a bunch and try really hard to drum up your own worthiness. You simply receive the grace of God by saying, Jesus, I believe. Forgive me and make me new. I want to follow you. And I want you to know, if you would make that decision in your heart and mind as you sit there in the silence this morning, heaven is rejoicing as your heart turns over to Jesus. And so are we. And so if we can help you follow Jesus, we're here for it, okay? We're here to walk with you in that journey. For those of us that are followers of Jesus in the room, I would just encourage you right now to listen to the Spirit's prompting as we respond. Maybe there are clear things he's put his finger on, clear areas of identity he wants you to surrender to him. Maybe there's some things that you need to stop, not just for a day, but altogether. Maybe there's some things that you need to enter into. Whatever God is speaking to you about this morning, I would just encourage you to lean in and say yes. So Jesus, we give you the rest of our time, and we look forward to how you're going to work. Amen.